My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 35 years old. 20 years ago, my parents called me a mistake and threw me out like yesterday's garbage when I was 15 and pregnant. Today, they stood in the marble lobby of Century Tech Industries, demanding to meet their grandson, the CEO they'd seen featured on Forbes magazine. My mother clutched her Louis Vuitton bag like a shield, while my father adjusted his Rolex, both dressed to impress the son of the daughter they'd deleted from their lives. But they had no idea what was waiting for them in the will of the woman who became my real mother, when they wouldn't. Before we begin, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly speaks to your heart. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Here's what happened when karma finally showed up with a 20-year receipt. Let me take you back to that cold December night in 2004. I stood in my parents' kitchen, the one with the granite countertops and the sub-zero refrigerator that cost more than most people's annual salary, holding a pregnancy test in my shaking 15-year-old hands. "You're lying," my mother said first, her voice cutting through me like ice. No daughter of mine would be so stupid. But the second test said the same thing. And the third. My father didn't scream. That would have been beneath him. Instead, he walked to the hall closet with slow, measured steps and returned with a black trash bag. He set it on the kitchen counter with surgical precision. "You have 30 minutes," he said, checking his Tag Heuer watch. "Pack what you need. Leave your house key on the counter." "Dad, please. You're not my daughter anymore." He turned the family photo on the refrigerator face down, the one where we all wore matching red sweaters for Christmas card perfection. My daughter wouldn't spread her legs for some boy and ruin everything we've built. My mother stood by the kitchen island examining her French manicure. "Don't call us. Don't come back. We'll tell everyone you went to boarding school." Jason, the boy who'd promised me forever, had already been accepted to UCLA. His parents had money. His future mattered more than mine. Or our babies. He'd stopped answering my calls the day I told him. 30 minutes. That's all the time they gave me to pack up 15 years of being their daughter. I grabbed clothes, the $57 from my jewelry box, and my grandmother's locket they'd forgotten I had. The lock clicked behind me like a prison door. Final. Irreversible. I slept in Riverside Park that first night, on the bench where Jason first held my hand. For 3 nights, I lived on vending machine crackers and drank from the water fountain, praying someone would help me before I froze to death. Then, Dorothy Williams found me. She was walking her golden retriever at dawn, a routine she'd kept since retiring from teaching. She saw me curled on that park bench, using my backpack as a pillow, and something in her heart broke open. "Honey, you're going to catch pneumonia out here," she said, her voice warm like hot chocolate. "I'm fine," I lied through chattering teeth. "No, you're not." She studied my face, then my belly. Even at barely 8 weeks, she somehow knew. When I started crying, really crying, not the silent tears I'd been rationing for 3 days, she sat right there on that freezing bench and held me like I mattered. "Come on," she said finally. "Max and I need company for breakfast." Her house smelled like cinnamon and vanilla candles. The heated car seats felt like heaven. She drove us to Maplewood, to a cozy 2-story house with a wraparound porch and flower boxes that would bloom come spring. "I lost my daughter," she said simply as she led me inside. "Cancer, 3 years ago. She was about your age when it happened." The room she showed me had been prepared. Not for me specifically, but for someone who needed it. A twin bed with a handmade quilt, a small desk by the window, bookshelves filled with classics. "This is yours now," she said. "No strings attached. Everyone deserves someone to believe in them." "Why?" I whispered. She touched a photo on the dresser, a young woman with Dorothy's kind eyes and gentle smile, because Jenny would have wanted me to. That night, I slept in a real bed for the first time in 4 days. Max curled up at my feet like a furry guardian angel. Dorothy didn't just give me shelter, she gave me a future. While my parents told their country club friends I was at some prestigious boarding school, I was learning to hope again in a bedroom decorated with inspirational quotes. Michael arrived during a March snowstorm, healthy and perfect. Dorothy held my hand through 12 hours of labor, whispering encouragement when I thought I couldn't go on. She was the first to hold him after me. "He's going to change the world," she declared, though he was only minutes old. I can see it in his eyes. She wasn't wrong. Michael walked at 10 months, read at 3, and built his first computer at age 8. While I took night classes for my GED, then community college courses, he absorbed knowledge like other kids absorbed cartoons. Dorothy owned a small chain of bookstores. Williams' Literary Corner had 3 locations across the city. She started me as a cashier, then taught me inventory, management, customer relations. "You're not just working here," she said. "You're learning to build something lasting." When Michael was 12, he created an app that helped kids with dyslexia learn to read better. At 16, he got a full scholarship to MIT. At 20, he launched his first startup. That same year, Dorothy introduced me to David Chen, her estate attorney. He was updating her will. She'd insisted on changes every year since taking us in. Tall, steady, with laugh lines around his eyes and the worst dad jokes in existence. He made me smile for the first time in months after Dorothy's cancer diagnosis. "Your son's incredible," he said over coffee that turned into dinner. "His adoptive grandmother deserves the credit." "I wasn't talking about Dorothy," he smiled, though she mentioned something interesting about protecting the family you choose. Even then, Dorothy was planning ahead. Everything changed when TechCrunch ran the headline, "22-year-old CEO becomes youngest tech billionaire in history." Michael's photo covered the front page of the business section. My son in a navy suit, standing in front of the Century Tech building he'd purchased outright. The article mentioned his full name, Michael Chen Williams. He'd legally changed his last name to honor Dorothy when he turned 18, combining it with David's when we married. Within hours, the story went viral. "Genius CEO revolutionizes AI technology." "Gen Z entrepreneur solves healthcare crisis." "Real-life Mark Zuckerberg creates medical miracle." My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't check the voicemail. "Sarah, it's your mother. After 20 years of silence, we need to discuss our grandson." "Our grandson? Not your son? Not Michael?" "Our grandson?" Like he was property they'd suddenly remembered they'd misplaced. The email started next, sent to my bookstore's business address. Professional. Cold. "Dear Sarah, we hope this message finds you well. Recent news has come to our attention regarding Michael's remarkable achievements. As his grandparents, we feel it's time to reconnect and discuss his inheritance as a Reynolds family member." They signed it with their corporate letterhead. Reynolds and Associates Financial Planning, the company they'd protected by discarding me. David found me crying in our kitchen. Not from sadness, but from pure rage. "They want him now that he's successful," I said. 20 years of nothing, and now they want to claim him. "What do you want to do?" "Make them disappear again." He pulled me close. "We can do that. But first, let me check something in Dorothy's papers." She mentioned provisions for this exact situation. That night, Michael worked until 2 a.m., coding solutions for diabetes management. He had no idea his biological grandparents existed, let alone that they were circling like vultures who'd spotted gold. They started small, showing up at the main bookstore, pretending to browse, watching me work. I recognized my mother's wedding ring before her face. She'd aged terribly. Plastic surgery fighting a losing battle with bitterness. "Excuse me," she said, approaching my counter. "I'm looking for Sarah Reynolds." That was my maiden name. I'm Sarah Chen now. We're your parents, sweetheart. We need to talk. You need to leave. They didn't. Instead, packages started arriving at Michael's office. A Patek Philippe watch, a first edition set of business classics worth thousands, a Tesla key fob with a red bow. Each gift card signed, "With love, your grandparents who've missed you." Michael brought them home, confused. "Mom, someone keeps sending me expensive stuff. Should I be worried?" "Return everything," I said. "All of it." David intercepted their next move, a formal letter demanding grandparent rights and claiming Michael was being alienated from his biological family. He laughed, actually laughed, as he read it to me. "They're citing emotional distress," he said, "but they made a critical error. Look at this." He pulled out a photocopy of the document they'd signed 20 years ago, the legal emancipation papers that terminated all parental rights. "They didn't just kick you out, Sarah. They legally severed all connection to you and any children you might have. This signature is ironclad." They kept pushing. They hired a private investigator who followed Michael's routine. They contacted tech journalists, introducing themselves as the proud grandparents of the young genius CEO. The final straw came when my father approached Michael directly at a Starbucks near his office. "You look just like your grandfather," he said, blocking Michael's path to the door. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "I'm your grandfather, son. Your mother has kept us apart, but family is family." Michael called me immediately. "Mom, some old guy claiming to be my grandfather just cornered me at Starbucks. Should I call security?" "Yes," I said. "Always." The call came at midnight because Jason always had terrible timing. "Sarah, it's me. Please don't hang up." 20 years, and he still thought "it's me" would mean something. "What do you want, Jason?" "I saw the news about Michael. He's incredible. Our son. Now he was our son. When I was 15 and terrified, Michael was my problem. Now that he was worth billions and making headlines, Jason remembered his DNA contribution. "He doesn't know you exist," I said. "Let's keep it that way." "That's not fair, Sarah. I was 18. My parents threatened to cut me off completely if I didn't—" "If you didn't what? Abandon your pregnant girlfriend? Block her number? Pretend your child didn't exist while you partied at UCLA?" Silence. "I'm married now. Have 2 other kids. But my startup failed. I'm broke, Sarah. Lost everything in the divorce. I just want to know him." His voice cracked with desperation. "He's my blood." "Blood? You erased us when we needed you most." "Your parents contacted me," he admitted. "They think if I'm involved, you'll be more open to reconciliation. They're offering to help me financially if I can convince you." I hung up. Then I called David. "They're working together," I told him. "My parents and Jason, they're actually planning this together." "Good," he said, which surprised me. "Conspiracy leaves evidence. Forward me everything." The next morning, Jason sent a long email about his father's rights and what's best for Michael. He copied my parents on it. At the bottom, hidden in the signature line, was confirmation of everything. Consultant, Reynolds Family Reconciliation Services. They'd actually hired him. My parents hired the man who abandoned me to manipulate me into letting them near Michael. Dorothy had been right about everything before she died. Family isn't blood. It's choice. And some choices, once made, can't be undone. If you've ever had to protect your children from toxic family members who only want them when they're successful, please leave a like to support others fighting for healthy boundaries. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. The next part will show you what happens when greed meets legal consequences. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I genuinely want to connect with others who understand that DNA doesn't equal family. Now, Let's see what happened when my parents decided to go public with their demands. Tuesday, 2 p.m. Michael was in back-to-back investor meetings when my parents walked into Century Tech's glass-walled lobby. "We're here to see our grandson, Michael Chen Williams," my mother announced to the receptionist loud enough for everyone to hear. "We're his grandparents, the Reynolds family." The security desk called Michael's assistant instead of Michael, but my parents had come prepared with their performance. "This is absolutely ridiculous," my father boomed, his voice echoing off the modern architecture. "We're major investors in this industry. Our grandson is the CEO. We demand to see him immediately." Employees stopped to stare. Phones appeared. Someone started live streaming on TikTok. My mother, ever the actress, pulled out tissues. Real tears. She'd mastered them years ago for charity galas. 20 years we've been kept from him," she sobbed. "We just want to meet our only grandchild before we're too old to enjoy him." Security arrived as David and I did, alerted by Michael's assistant. "Ma'am, sir," the head of security said professionally, "Mr. Chen Williams is in meetings. If you'd like to schedule—" "We'll wait," my father declared, settling into a designer chair like he owned the building. Which, given his delusions, he probably thought he should. The security chief looked at me. "Mrs. Chen, how would you like us to handle this?" My mother's tears stopped instantly. "Chen? You remarried? You gave our grandson another man's name?" "He chose that name," I said quietly. "You made sure he'd never want yours." The growing crowd of employees murmured. My father's face turned purple. "How dare you speak to us like—" The elevator doors opened. Michael emerged in jeans and a hoodie, fresh from changing the world one algorithm at a time. He looked at the scene. Security guards, strangers with phones out, two overdressed elderly people causing chaos, then at me. "Are these the people who've been harassing me?" "Yes," I said. "Then I want them removed." He didn't even look at them. Now. My parents didn't leave. Instead, they called Channel 12 from the parking garage. Within an hour, news vans surrounded the tech campus. My mother had changed into a designer dress. She'd brought costume changes for her ambush. "We're heartbroken," my mother told reporter Amanda Martinez, dabbing her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. 20 years ago, there was a misunderstanding. We were shocked about our teenage daughter's pregnancy. We overreacted. She looked directly at the camera, the grieving grandmother in pearls and pain. "But we've been trying to make amends, to reconnect, and we're being denied access to our only grandchild who doesn't even know we exist." "Dr. Chen Williams is a tech pioneer," the reporter prompted. "You must be incredibly proud." "Incredibly proud," my father said. Though he'd never seen Michael code, never watched him present to investors, never stayed up all night helping debug a program. Excellence runs in the Reynolds family. It's in his DNA. In his DNA? The DNA they'd rejected when it was growing inside me. "What would you say to your daughter now?" Amanda asked. My mother looked directly at the camera lens. "Sarah, sweetheart, we forgive you. We just want our family whole again. Please don't punish Michael for our past mistakes." They forgive me. They forgive me for being 15, pregnant, and abandoned. The segment aired at 6. By 8, it had 200,000 views online. The comments poured in under their Facebook post. "Family is everything. Let them see their grandson." "Why be so cruel, Sarah?" David closed his laptop. "They just made their biggest mistake." Going public? No. Claiming they forgive you. That's admission of wrongdoing. And we have documents that show exactly what they did wrong. Century Tech's board chairman called me the next morning for an informal chat. "Sarah, this situation is becoming complicated," Mr. Harrison said, adjusting his gold cufflinks. "The Reynolds family has significant investment portfolios. The optics concern some of our board members." Are you threatening my son's company? Not threatening. Just suggesting that perhaps one supervised meeting might resolve everything quietly. Would you meet with people who threw you away like garbage when you were 15? He shifted uncomfortably. It's a delicate situation. At the bookstore, customers suddenly had opinions about my life. Family is complicated, one regular told me while browsing mysteries. But forgiveness heals everything, don't you think? Even my employees whispered when they thought I couldn't hear them. 20 years is a long time to hold a grudge. A grudge. Like being abandoned while pregnant was equivalent to a forgotten birthday. Michael came home exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. Mom, I had 3 meetings canceled today because reporters kept trying to get into the building, he said, collapsing onto our couch. This has to stop. I'm sorry, baby, I'll fix this. It's not your fault. He was quiet for a long moment. But maybe if I just met with them once? Tell them to leave us alone in person? Michael, they signed papers stating you don't exist to them legally. Can I see those papers? David had been waiting for this question. He pulled out the folder he'd prepared, the one he'd been carrying everywhere for days. This is what they signed, David said gently. The day they threw your mother out. Michael read slowly, his brilliant mind processing each word like code that wouldn't compile. December 18th, 2004, he read aloud. We, Robert and Margaret Reynolds, hereby terminate all parental rights and responsibilities to Sarah Reynolds and any children born or unborn. His voice stayed steady, but his hands trembled slightly. They signed this while you were pregnant with me? Yes. And this line here, we acknowledge no financial, emotional, or legal obligations to said minor or her offspring. They wrote that? Their lawyer did. They signed it. He set the papers down carefully, the way he handled delicate circuit boards. Tell me everything, Mom. From the beginning. So I did. The 30 minutes, the trash bag, the park bench, Jason disappearing. Everything I'd shielded him from for 20 years spilled out in our living room while David held my hand. Jason Blake is my biological father, Michael said. It wasn't a question. Yes. The tech entrepreneur who just filed for bankruptcy. He pulled out his phone. I know. He's been trying to connect with me on LinkedIn for months. I blocked him last week when he got too persistent. My brilliant, brilliant boy. Why didn't you say anything? Because you didn't. I figured when you were ready, you'd tell me. He looked at the papers again. So Grandma Dorothy was your real mother, the only one who wanted you. She left you something, didn't she? He asked. In her will. That's why David keeps checking legal documents. David nodded. She left you everything, with conditions. Your biological grandparents can't touch a penny if they abandoned you. How much? $8 million, plus the bookstore properties and investments. Michael laughed. Actually laughed. They're fighting this hard for money they've already lost legally. They don't know they've lost it yet, David said. But they're about to. We chose Romano's, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. All crystal chandeliers and waiters who memorized your preferred wine. Thank you for coming, my mother said, as if she'd won something by getting me there. My father slid a leather portfolio across the white tablecloth before our appetizers arrived. Let's skip the pleasantries, he said. $3 million, placed in trust for Michael immediately. Another 3 when he joins Reynolds and Associates as our heir apparent. You want to buy us? We want to invest in our legacy, my mother corrected, touching her diamond necklace. Michael is a Reynolds. He should benefit from that heritage. The heritage you took from me? Which we're offering to restore. The IPO launches next quarter. Reynolds and Associates, 3 generations of financial excellence tests very well with focus groups. Focus groups. They'd focus grouped our reconciliation like a marketing campaign. And Jason? I asked. My father's jaw tightened. Mr. Blake is a separate contractor. Is he? Because he told me you're paying him as a consultant to manipulate me. My mother's Botox prevented most expressions, but her eyes flickered. That's a misunderstanding. David had been silent until now. Is it? Because we have the email chain suggesting otherwise. Something about a success fee for reunification? You've been monitoring our private communications? My father stood halfway up. That's illegal wiretapping. No, David said calmly. Jason forwarded them to Sarah. He CC'd you both. Actually, he's not very smart about technology for someone claiming to be a tech entrepreneur. They exchanged the same look they'd shared when deciding my fate 20 years ago. The offer stands, my father said, dropping $300 bills on the table. But not indefinitely. As they left, my mother turned back. That boy deserves to know his real family. He does, I said. That's why he'll never know you. David worked late that night. Legal documents spread across our dining table like evidence in a murder case. Which, in a way, they were. Character assassination. Family murder. Sarah, look at this, he said, pointing to his laptop screen. The email chain went back 4 months before the first Forbes article about Michael. My parents had been planning this campaign. From Robert Reynolds Ishi, Reynolds Financial. Com. 2. Jason Blake 2024 Jan Gmail. Com. Subject, consultation agreement. Mr. Blake, per our discussion, you'll receive 15% of any assets recovered through reconciliation with our daughter. Your role, establish paternal connection with MCW, create leverage for maternal cooperation. They're calling my son assets to be recovered, I whispered. Keep reading. Jason's response made me sick. Happy to help. Sarah always was emotional and guilt-driven. If I push the right buttons about missed father-son bonding, she'll cave. Suggest we coordinate pressure. You from the grandparent angle. Me from the father's rights angle. $500K upfront seems reasonable given my personal investment. He was selling access to Michael like a commodity. But there's more, David said, pulling up LinkedIn messages. 3 days ago, he messaged Michael directly. The message appeared on screen. Son, I know your mother has filled your head with lies about me, but I'm your father. I deserve a chance to know the man you've become. Your grandparents agree. Together, we could build something incredible. The Reynolds financial empire combined with Blake innovation. Think about your legacy. Michael didn't tell me about this, I said. Because Michael reported him for harassment. LinkedIn banned his account. David smiled. He also sent Jason's bankruptcy documents to my office. Turns out owing the IRS $2 million while claiming to be a successful entrepreneur doesn't look good to potential business partners. They're still paying him. The Reynolds and Associates board voted yesterday to terminate all consultant contracts. Your father doesn't know yet. David unlocked Dorothy's safe with the combination she'd made me memorize. 03/27/2005, the day Michael was born. She updated this will every year, he said, pulling out the thick document, but this clause never changed. He opened to page 12, section 8, highlighted in yellow. Should any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or legally severed ties with my chosen daughter Sarah Reynolds or her son Michael attempt to claim relationship, inheritance, or contact after achieving success or recognition, they shall be permanently barred from any benefit from this estate. She knew this would happen. She planned for it. He pulled out an iPad. She left video instructions. Dorothy's face filled the screen, recorded just weeks before her cancer took her. She looked tired but determined. If you're watching this, Dorothy said, her teacher's voice still strong despite her illness, Then Robert and Margaret Reynolds have crawled out from whatever hole they've been hiding in. My throat tightened. Even dying, she'd protected us. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, Dorothy continued, looking directly at the camera. Yes, I know exactly who you are. I know about the 30 minutes, the trash bag, the family photo you turned face down when your 15-year-old daughter needed you most. The video showed Dorothy in her favorite chair, Max at her feet. You threw away a treasure, and I found her. She became my daughter in every way that matters. Michael became my grandson. And you? You're nothing. Ghosts. Signatures on paper that ensure you'll never hurt them again. Dorothy looked directly into the lens. Sarah, my dear girl, they'll come with money and promises. Don't believe them. You have everything. The stores, the investments, this house. $8 million, all protected in trust. They can't touch it. They can't touch you. Be free. The timestamp showed she'd recorded it 2 days before she died. This is the beautiful part, David said, pulling out the original abandonment papers. These documents your parents signed don't just terminate parental rights. They include a clause about inheritance and legal standing. I'd seen copies before, but the original felt different, heavier. Their signatures were bold and clear, like they were signing a business merger. They didn't just kick you out, David explained. They legally emancipated you and simultaneously waived all future claims. But here's what their expensive lawyer apparently didn't explain clearly enough. He pointed to Section 7. This relinquishment extends in perpetuity to any offspring born or unborn of the aforementioned minor. In perpetuity means forever. They can't claim grandparent rights because legally Michael isn't their grandson. They made sure of that 20 years ago. But they're on TV claiming they're either lying or they never read what they signed. Either way, this document is legally binding and irreversible. I thought about my father's law degree hanging in his home office, my mother's obsession with reading every contract twice. They'd known. They'd wanted me gone so completely that they'd signed away their future too. There's one more thing, David said. If they continue harassment after being shown these documents, we can file criminal charges: stalking, intimidation, conspiracy to commit fraud. They'd never risk that. Exactly. Their reputation means everything to them. So we give them one chance to disappear quietly. If they refuse, we destroy them publicly. We let their own choices destroy them at the Tech Innovation Gala. At the gala? 500 witnesses, full media coverage, everyone they want to impress. Their reputation, their legacy, their precious social standing, all destroyed by documents they signed themselves. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Dorothy really had thought of everything. She loved you both so much, David said simply. This was her way of protecting you forever. The Tech Innovation Gala was in 4 days. 500 guests, media coverage, and Michael giving the keynote about innovation, family, and building the future. We invite them, I said, holding the elegant invitation, all 3 of them. David raised an eyebrow. You're sure? Dorothy left us the weapons. Time to use them. I wrote each invitation by hand. Dear Mother and Father, please join us at the Tech Innovation Gala to discuss Michael's inheritance and your role in the Reynolds family legacy. Legal documentation will be provided. Sarah. Dear Jason, your presence is requested regarding Michael's paternity and your parental claims. Full disclosure will occur. Sarah Reynolds Chen. They'll think they've won, David said, sealing the gold-trimmed envelopes. Let them. Michael reviewed his speech one final time. You want me to mention Grandma Dorothy, but not them? Mention your real grandmother, the one who loved you unconditionally, and when they stand up to claim credit, that's when David presents the evidence. We'd reserved a table front and center for them. Table 1. Impossible to miss. Impossible to leave without everyone noticing. The entire tech industry will be there, David noted. Investors, board members, journalists, everyone they want to impress. Good. I called the event coordinator. Yes, we're announcing the Dorothy Williams Foundation for Teen Parents tonight. $5 million in initial funding, full scholarships for young parents pursuing tech careers. Everything was in place. 20 years of abandonment, transformed into purpose. What if they don't come? Michael asked. They'll come. Their greed won't let them stay away. David checked the RSVPs an hour later. All 3 had responded yes within minutes. They think they've won, he said. Perfect. The best defeats come when victory seems certain. The moment of truth was coming. If you've ever had to stand up to those who should have protected you but chose money over love, comment strength below. I read every comment and your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You need to see what happens when signatures from the past destroy futures built on lies. The gala is about to begin, and every camera in that room will capture the moment my parents learn that some choices echo through eternity. The grand ballroom at the Marriott sparkled with new money and old power. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across white silk, and my parents sat at table 1 like royalty holding court. My mother wore vintage Chanel, the suit she'd been saving for ultimate victories. My father checked his Patek Philippe every few minutes, probably calculating the exact moment to make their grand gesture. Jason sat beside them, fidgeting in a rented tuxedo that hung wrong on his shoulders. His bankruptcy had left him unable to afford the tailoring that would have made him fit in with this crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, the host announced, please welcome our keynote speaker, CEO Michael Chen Williams. My son walked to the podium wearing jeans and his signature hoodie. Not formal wear, but the uniform of someone who'd earned respect through innovation, not inheritance. The tech crowd cheered. My parents' smiles tightened. This wasn't the polished presentation they'd expected. Good evening, I'm here to talk about family, Michael began. Not the family genetics gives you, but the family that chooses to invest in your potential when everyone else gives up. My mother perked up, assuming he meant them. 20 years ago, a 15-year-old girl was thrown out of her home for getting pregnant. She had 30 minutes to pack her entire life. She slept in parks. She survived on crackers from vending machines. She had nothing except the baby growing inside her and the hope that somewhere, someone would care. The room went completely silent. My father's champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. Then Dorothy Williams found her, Michael continued. A retired teacher with no obligation to help, no reason to care except that she understood what family really meant. On the massive screen behind him, Dorothy's photo appeared. 20 feet tall, smiling, radiant in her favorite floral dress. Dorothy became my grandmother. She gave my mother dignity, purpose, and unconditional love. She gave me a foundation built on character, not cash. My parents were no longer smiling. Tonight, I'm announcing the Dorothy Williams Foundation for Teen Parents, Michael said, his voice carrying across 500 silent guests. $5 million in initial funding, housing, childcare, education, and mentorship for young parents abandoned by their families. The screen changed to Dorothy's final video message. Hello, my dear ones. Dorothy's voice filled the ballroom through the premium sound system. If you're watching this, then my grandson Michael is doing exactly what I knew he would. Changing lives and building bridges where others burn them. My mother started to rise from her chair. My father's hand shot out, gripping her wrist, pulling her back down. Family, Dorothy continued from beyond the grave, isn't about DNA or trust funds or family names on buildings. It's about showing up when showing up is hard. The camera slowly panned across the crowd. Every eye turned to table 1. When Sarah needed family most, where were the Reynolds? When Michael spoke his first word, took his first step, wrote his first program, where were they? My father's face had gone completely white. I leave everything to my real family, Dorothy said, looking directly into the camera. To Sarah, my daughter by choice. To Michael, my grandson by love. And to those who abandon them, I leave you exactly what you gave them. Nothing. Michael returned to the podium as Dorothy's image faded to black. I want to thank my family for being here tonight, he said, gesturing toward our table. My mom, Sarah, who sacrificed everything to give me a chance, and David, who showed me that being a father is about presence, not genetics. My mother shot to her feet like a rocket. What about your grandparents? What about your blood? The entire ballroom turned to stare at the disruption. Phones appeared. The live stream audience spiked as people started recording. No, Michael said calmly into the microphone, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. You're strangers who happen to share my DNA, there's a difference. How dare you? My father stood, his chair scraping loudly against the marble floor. We are your family, we have rights. Mr. Chen, Michael said, looking at David, I believe you have some documents to present. David stood, walking toward the stage with the measured steps of approaching justice. The folder in his hands contained 20 years of truth. This is insane! My father charged toward the podium, his face purple with rage. We are his grandparents. They've poisoned him against us. Security moved forward, but David raised his hand. Let them come. Let everyone hear. My mother grabbed a microphone from the nearest table. This is our grandson, she shrieked. They've brainwashed him. We made one mistake 20 years ago. One mistake? I stood, my voice carrying without amplification across the silent ballroom. You gave me 30 minutes to pack 15 years of my life. You turned my picture face down. You signed legal papers disowning me and my unborn child. The crowd gasped audibly. Social media exploded with live updates. That was different, my mother screamed. You were a child, pregnant at 15. You were destroying our reputation. I was your daughter. Jason tried to slip toward the exit. 2 security guards quietly blocked his path. Mr. Blake, David said into the podium microphone, his lawyer's voice carrying perfectly. Please don't leave yet. This concerns you as well. I'm not, Jason stammered. You're not what? David asked. The biological father who abandoned a pregnant 15-year-old? Or the consultant being paid by the Reynolds family to manipulate their daughter? My father lunged for the podium microphone. You can't prove... Actually, David smiled, clicking a remote control. I can. The massive screen lit up with email printouts, the conspiracy laid bare in 40-foot letters for 500 witnesses to read. 15% of assets recovered. David read aloud from the projection. Push the right buttons about missed father-son bonding. She always was emotional and guilt-driven. My mother's Chanel suit couldn't hide her trembling. My father's Rolex couldn't restore the time he'd lost. Jason looked like he might pass out in his rental tuxedo. Shall we discuss? David continued. The legal documents you signed 20 years ago? The ones that permanently severed all rights to Sarah and her children? The ballroom held its collective breath. David clicked again. The abandonment document filled the screen, every word magnified, every signature clear as daylight. December 18, 2004, David read. We, Robert and Margaret Reynolds, hereby terminate all parental rights and responsibilities to Sarah Reynolds and any children born or unborn. The document zoomed in on their signatures. Bold, deliberate, legally binding. This extends in perpetuity, David continued. Forever. Irreversible. You didn't just abandon your pregnant daughter. You legally abandoned every generation that would come from her. We didn't understand, my mother started. You didn't understand? David pulled up another document on screen. Mr. Reynolds, you have a law degree from Columbia. You knew exactly what you were signing. My father's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. But that's not all, David said. Let's discuss what happens when you abandon someone, then try to claim their inheritance 20 years later. The crowd leaned forward. Even the waitstaff had stopped to watch history unfold. 20 years ago, you threw Sarah away like garbage. Dorothy Williams found her, loved her, raised Michael as her own grandson. And when Dorothy died, she left very specific instructions about blood relatives who had abandoned family. That money should be ours, my father shouted. We're the biological grandparents who signed away all rights. Look at the screen, Mr. Reynolds. Look at your signature. Channel 12's camera captured everything. The reporter held her microphone toward the chaos, broadcasting live to the entire city. Every person in this room, David said, every camera, every live stream viewer, they're all witnessing the truth. You abandoned a pregnant child. You signed away your grandchild. And now, you want to profit from his success. The disgust in the room was palpable. People were literally turning their backs on table one. Now, David said, let's discuss Dorothy Williams's will. The screen changed to official probate documents, complete with court seals and legal stamps. Article 12, Section 8, David read. Any biological family member who previously abandoned, disowned, or legally severed ties with Sarah Reynolds or Michael Chen Williams shall be permanently excluded from all inheritance, property, or financial benefit from this estate. She can't do that, my mother screamed. She could, and she did. The estate is worth $8 million. The bookstores, the properties, the investments, all of it goes to Sarah and Michael. You, Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, receive exactly what you gave them 20 years ago. Nothing. But more importantly, David clicked again, revealing a new video timestamp. Dorothy left you a personal message. Dorothy appeared on screen again, but this was different footage. She was looking directly into the camera, directly at my parents. Robert and Margaret Reynolds. Dorothy's voice filled the ballroom with quiet authority. I know you're watching this, probably in a room full of people you're trying to impress. Perfect. Let them all hear what I have to say. My mother collapsed back into her chair. You are cowards of the worst kind, Dorothy continued. You threw away a treasure because you cared more about appearances than your own child. The room was so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. I found that treasure. I polished her. I watched her shine. Sarah became my daughter. Michael became my grandson. And you? You're nothing. Ghosts. Signatures on paper that ensure you'll never hurt them again. Dorothy leaned forward in the video, her teacher's authority filling every corner of the ballroom. You had 30 minutes to pack your daughter's life into a trash bag, so I'm giving you the same courtesy. You have 10 minutes to leave this gala, leave this city, and leave Sarah and Michael alone forever. Starting now. David looked at his watch. That's 9:17 p.m. At 9:27, if you're still here, we file restraining orders, criminal harassment charges, and conspiracy to commit fraud charges. The ballroom clock ticked loudly in the silence. 9 minutes, David announced. My parents looked at each other, then at the exits, then at the hundreds of phones recording their public destruction. Mr. Blake? David turned to Jason, who was pressed against the wall like a cornered animal. Let's discuss your consulting fees. The emails returned to the screen. David read each one slowly, letting every word sink into the minds of 500 tech industry witnesses. Sarah always was emotional, he quoted. Push the right buttons. $500,000 up front seems reasonable for my involvement. That's taken out of context, Jason protested weakly. Is it? Let's see the full context. David scrolled through the entire email chain. You could hear people in the audience gasping as they read Jason's calculations about manipulating me for money. Michael stepped back to the microphone. Mr. Blake, I want you to know something. I've known who you were since I was 16. I researched you extensively. Jason's face went completely white. I saw your college graduation photos, your wedding announcements, your other children's birth certificates, the children you didn't abandon. I watched you build your life, while my mother built hers alone. The brutality of Michael's calm delivery was devastating. I felt nothing. You know why? Because David Chen taught me to code. David came to every product launch. David is my father in every way that matters. But I'm your biological. You're a sperm donor who's now bankrupt and desperate enough to sell access to the son you never wanted. Someone in the crowd actually applauded. Then another. The sound built until Jason was surrounded by the judgment of his peers. 8 minutes remaining, David announced. Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, Mr. Blake, I strongly suggest you leave now. The ballroom doors opened. A process server walked in, followed by 2 police officers and a court clerk. Robert Reynolds, Margaret Reynolds, Jason Blake. The server announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. You're being served with emergency restraining orders. He handed each of them legal documents while 500 people watched in stunned silence. These are temporary orders effective immediately, the officer explained. You are prohibited from coming within 1,000 feet of Sarah Chen, Michael Chen Williams, or David Chen. No contact through any medium, no calls, texts, emails, or third-party messages. You planned this, my mother hissed at me, her carefully applied makeup streaking with tears. No, I said, standing for everyone to see. You planned this 20 years ago when you chose your reputation over your daughter. I'm just collecting what you owed. The officer stepped forward professionally. Folks, you need to leave the premises immediately or you'll be violating the restraining order. This is harassment, my father shouted. This is conspiracy. This is consequences. The officer replied calmly. Something you apparently haven't experienced before. You have 3 minutes to exit before we arrest you for violation. My mother grabbed her Louis Vuitton bag like armor. You'll regret this, Sarah. Mark my words. The only thing I regret, I said loud enough for the entire ballroom to hear, is spending 15 years thinking I needed your approval. They walked toward the exit in shame, Jason stumbling behind them like a lost child. At the door, my father turned back one final time. That boy is our blood. Blood? Michael called out, his voice carrying across the silent room. You bled my mother dry and left her for dead. Dorothy gave her a transfusion of real love. That's the only blood that matters here. The doors closed behind them with finality. The entire ballroom erupted in thunderous applause that lasted nearly 5 minutes. But we weren't done yet. Michael returned to the podium, this time with me beside him. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, let me tell you what we're really here to celebrate. The screen showed architectural plans for a beautiful building. The Dorothy Williams Center for Teen Parents. $8 million in initial funding from her estate. 20 full scholarships to tech programs for young parents, housing for 50 families, childcare during classes, job placement assistance. Everything my mother needed 20 years ago and found in one extraordinary woman. I took the microphone, my voice steady and strong. Every young parent who comes to us will receive what Dorothy gave me. Not judgment, but opportunity. Not shame, but dignity. Not abandonment, but family. Our first scholarship recipient is here tonight, Michael announced. Jessica Martinez, 17, valedictorian while raising twin boys, heading to Stanford for computer science this fall. A young woman stood up at the back of the room, holding two toddlers, tears streaming down her face. The standing ovation was deafening. Jessica will attend Stanford with full support, tuition, housing, childcare, because that's what Dorothy would have done, I said. David joined us on stage. We're also announcing that Reynolds and Associates has agreed to redirect their annual charitable giving, the money they've donated to various causes over the years, to establish the Dorothy Williams Endowment. $12 million matched by anonymous donors throughout the community. I knew who those anonymous donors were. Every family Dorothy had helped over the years, paying it forward. In 1 year, Michael said, we'll have helped 100 young parents. In 5 years, 500. In 20 years, when some other scared 15-year-old faces what my mother faced, she won't sleep in a park. She'll call us. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. The sweetest sound was the complete silence from table 1, empty forever. 6 weeks later, David showed me the morning business news over coffee. Reynolds and Associates stock dropped 60%. He said, scrolling through headlines. The board called an emergency meeting. Your father was voted out as CEO. The scandal had spread far beyond our city. Family values hypocrites ran in the Wall Street Journal. The 30-minute parents became a viral hashtag that lasted for weeks. They're selling the house, David continued, pulling up the real estate listing. The Westfield estate was listed at 40% below market value. Desperate for cash to cover legal fees and reputation management. What about Jason? Federal prison. 18 months for bankruptcy fraud and tax evasion. His ex-wife's lawyer used our email evidence to prove he was hiding assets during the divorce. He owes $300,000 in back child support for his other kids. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just nothing. They moved to Phoenix, David added. Your aunt took them in. They're living in her guest house. From a 7-bedroom mansion to a guest house. From country club leadership to exile. Their church asked them to find a new congregation, David continued. Apparently, abandoning pregnant teenagers doesn't align with their family values mission statement. Every institution that had mattered more to them than me had rejected them. Are you okay? David asked. I'm free, I said. For the first time in 20 years, I'm completely free. That evening, we gathered for our weekly family dinner. The tradition Dorothy had started that we'd never abandoned. Michael carved the roast using the technique Dorothy had taught him when he was 10. So, I launched 3 new products this week, he said casually, like he was discussing the weather. The diabetes management app is already helping 50,000 people. Show off, David teased, pouring wine from Dorothy's collection. The youngest beta tester is 6, Michael continued. His mom is 19. She reminds me of someone I know. He looked at me with eyes that still held wonder despite everything he'd accomplished. I told her about the foundation. She cried when I explained the scholarship program. She moves into the center next week, I said. Full support. Housing, childcare, education, everything. This was our family. No DNA required, no blood tests needed, just choice, consistency, and love. Dorothy's portrait hung above the fireplace where a TV used to be. We preferred looking at her smile than any screen. Fresh flowers sat beneath it, replaced weekly, always her favorite daisies. I have news, I announced. The first Dorothy Williams Center opens next month in Los Angeles. A tech executive who heard Michael's speech donated $10 million to replicate our program. Mom, that's incredible, Michael said. The second location will be in Miami, then Chicago. Then anywhere scared young parents need to know they're not alone. We raised our glasses in Dorothy's honor, using her good crystal, the set she'd saved for celebrations. To Dorothy, David said. To chosen family, Michael added. To second chances, I finished. In the candlelight, I could almost see Dorothy smiling, proud of what her love had grown into. This was family. Not perfect, not traditional, but real. Chosen. Permanent. And somewhere in Phoenix, in a guest house, two people I'd once called parents were learning what I'd known for 20 years. Some choices echo through generations, but the best choices, the ones built on love instead of fear, those create legacies that change the world. Thank you for staying with my story to the end. If you believe that real family is built on love, not DNA, hit that like button. Subscribe if this reminded you that justice exists, even when it takes 20 years to arrive. Share this with anyone who needs to hear that they deserve unconditional love, not conditional acceptance. Comment chosen family if you believe the people who show up matter more than the people who share your genetics. And if you're that scared teenager somewhere, facing an impossible choice with nowhere to turn, you're not alone. There's help. There's hope. There's family waiting to choose you. Because the most beautiful families aren't born. They're built.